We're here at the We Love Open Source booth. I'm Barton George with the All Things Open team, and I'm here with
Kunal.
Kunal. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to talk about technical education. Sounds like something you're passionate about. We make devs and trends in open source and maybe a few other things. So why don't we start with an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kunal. I work at Cast AI. I started like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Before this, I was working at a cloud company for 5 years as field CTO. And regarding WeMakeDevs, it's a community that I started like 4 years ago. We have over 100,000 members now.
Wow, that's a few.
And yeah, I have been involved in communities since I can remember. Open source. Made a lot of friends in the community via open source. Love coming to events like these. And it's just such a pleasure.
Cool. So we'll go back and double click on a few of those things. But to start off with, what excites you about making technical education accessible? And that's a rare talent. If you can take the complicated and you can boil it down, that's a great asset.
Yeah. People say I'm decent at it. I like teaching. Well, I love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of it like when I first started contributing to open source, it wouldn't have been possible if the community didn't reciprocate the sort of like efforts that I was putting in.
Right.
Because if I remember correctly, it was in my freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
and I only knew like Java or whatever. And I found this Kubernetes Java client by Red Hat, and the Red Hat folks there, the maintainers, they were like, oh yeah, cool. You're just a student. You're just getting started. All good. Do this. Learn Maven. Then do this. Dockerize your app and then do this and that. And then I ended up becoming a contributor and then a mentor for the same project.
That's excellent.
So I saw the whole journey of knowing nothing to being able to help other people contribute. So I think it's sort of like how I was brought up in the community. Like when you get started, people will help you. But then when you reach the certain level, you help other people,
Mm-hmm.
and the cycle continues. So
It's a virtuous circle.
That's that.
That's
Yeah.
great. So you mentioned We Make Devs. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah, I'm a big believer in learning by doing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they're like, I don't know, I'm going to learn React. So one of the best ways to apply whatever you're learning if you're a developer is just build things and break stuff.
Right.
The best way to learn. And learning by doing is like one of the best ways to learn. Open source helps us in doing that. So you want to you want to learn about React. You want to learn about Golang, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've learned Golang, but now the question that folks ask me is that, okay, I have learned Golang. How do I put that on my resume?
Mm-hmm.
Do I just say I like Golang? Because that's not,
Not
anyone can put that.
Not compelling enough for someone who would want to bring you in.
Anyone can put that. How do you prove your worth that you actually know Golang?
Mm-hmm.
Open source is great. You can look at Golang projects like Kubernetes or whatever. So many in the CNCF landscape. And you can just start contributing. And you can put that in your resume. That I contributed to this project. That has a lot of value. Mm-hmm. And with WeMakeDevs, it's like we just promote that, contributing to open source. We love giving back to the community. So it's all free. Everything we do is free for the community. And we do a lot of scholarships. A lot of people can't afford to travel to big conferences like KubeCon, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really active in the community, we will pay for your flights and your hotels and stuff as well.
Wow, that's great.
And we do these open source programs. So we tie people in with open source communities, and they sort of like just contribute to their projects and stuff. We wrapped up a very cool event with Meta, Docker, and Cerebrus last week.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Which had like a lot of people join and build stuff. So that's the whole idea. Just build stuff, have fun, win some cool stuff, and network and just cycle, repeat.
T-shirts? You give out T-shirts and swag?
Yeah, T-shirts, MacBooks.
Oh, that's even better. That's even better.
Well, because Meta sponsored it. So they were like, okay, it's Meta and Docker and Cerebrus.
Right.
So like, yeah, we can do good prizes. Why not? And it was a lot of fun.
I like that. So as you said, big fan of open source. What trends are you seeing today, either good or bad, in open source that have caught your eye?
a lot of companies there was a survey by Linux Foundation, over 90% of projects are using AI in open source,
Wow. Yeah.
which is quite interesting. And I think, I don't want to be that guy, but AI definitely in the near future as well, going to play a lot more prominent role in open source. That's what my keynote was actually about, like AI and humans, not AI versus humans.
Right.
Some things are just inevitable and you don't fight it, and not just tech, but in life. And you see how to make the most out of it. But on both the maintainers ends, I think there's a lot of positives of AI. At our company Cast AI, we use an AI Slack chatbot, for example, in our community Slack. I was not sure about it because I joined 3 weeks ago. I'm like, what's this Slack bot? What's happening with this here? But I saw it literally answer people's queries, and the people, real humans, were like, oh yeah, thank you, that worked. Thank you, that worked. Thank you, that worked. So I'm like, okay, cool, this helps. But also, like, anyone who is new to the open source community, AI can help with that. A lot of stuff that people don't want to do, writing unit tests.
Right.
AI can help with that. There are some cool companies that do AI code reviews. That's cool. I mean, they're getting a lot of customers, so obviously it's working. So I think we're headed in a more people will have more time to do problem solving. I think AI can take over there's obviously still going to be a new need for human.
Right.
You can't just merge the code in production without reviewing it, which is
So outside of AI, because of course everything is AI these days, what technology should we be checking out? Either an existing one or one that's emerging in your from your point of view.
Oh, so many to talk about. Outside AI, check out WebAssembly if you haven't already. WebAssembly is cool. So imagine you write a program in C++ or Java or whatever. It's running on your mobile application or your game or whatever, and you want it to run on your web or any other platform. So you can just compile it to WebAssembly. So essentially, you can make sure, I'll simplify it if you don't know, like the people who are watching.
Right.
You write a program in any language. You want to run it in a simplified version on like, let's say, a web platform. WebAssembly lets you do that. So it doesn't matter what you have written it in. So it's like you compile it in WebAssembly and then you just run it. So like you can run apps on web, you can do games on web, you can do a lot of stuff. That's one. Another cool one that I'm seeing a lot of industry use cases. I work in cloud. So eBPF is quite cool.
And what is that?
So eBPF is awesome. It's imagine a layer that interacts with your Linux kernel.
Okay.
But it does not modify your operating system. But it gets a lot of information at runtime from it. So for example, something went wrong in your application that you're running, and you need real-time logs of how it's interacting with the OS. eBPF lets you do that. So it won't modify your operating system, but it works on that layer that it gets all that information from the Linux kernel. So now you can imagine a very good use case in monitoring tools. You want to see deep down what's happening in my OS level without restarting the operating system or making any changes. So eBPF lets you do that. Observability tools, it's being used in a lot of places. Yeah.
Would you see that as a layer of abstraction or a dashboard of sorts, or how would you characterize it?
Yeah, it's like a layer on top of it sits between the Linux kernel and your OS.
Right.
If I remember correctly, but it doesn't necessarily modify your OS, and you don't have to like restart it or anything. But if you want to get that data, like, okay, what's up? What is happening? You want to see those logs, for example, like if something broke, how do we track it and all these other things? So eBPF lets you do that, and it gets all that nice information, so you can compile it and you can see what's happening. And then tools, your application on top of that can make use of all that data. So if you're an observability tool, you can make use of all that data. And if you want to, let's say, schedule some, VMs or whatever, if you're working with Kubernetes, a lot of Kubernetes companies using eBPF. Kubernetes is sort of like the OS of the cloud,
right,
if you will. So it's quite interesting. Check out eBPF and WebAssembly. Another than edge computing, why not? That's cool.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's good. All right. So what would be one, now you've talked a lot about this, I think, in what we're talking about when WeMakeDevs. What would be one tip or piece of advice or sort of career help that you would say for either people starting out or people looking to transition within the industry?
Just get started. If you're looking to get started out or transition into tech, the best way to get started is just get started. Think about also what kind of role do you want, and then let's say you want to be a DevOps engineer, you want to be a cloud engineer, you want to be DevRel in this domain or whatever, and then see what sort of AI tools are being used in that domain, and just learn how to use those and build stuff. But yeah, best way to get started is just to get started. If you're a beginner, no one expects you to be an expert, so don't try to be one, because you just end up spending a lot of time. I mean, people who are experts in their field takes them a while.
Yeah.
And they are experts because they get to contribute hands-on. So if you're, let's say, I don't know, looking for an internship, what matters more is how much you have broken stuff and how much you have played around with stuff, rather than how it's just not practical to be an expert. I mean, you can't be expert in Kubernetes in 3 months, for example.
Right.
I'm not an expert in Kubernetes.
All right. So now, Kunal, we come to that point of the show, the hot fix minute. Think of this as a lightning round. We've got 8 questions. There is no right or wrong answers. I'm going to give you, each question will have choices, and you tell me what's true.
So like rapid fire?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll start with this. Number 1, Linux, Mac, or Windows?
Mac.
Books, movies, or podcasts?
Books.
Pizza, salad, or tacos?
Pizza.
Rock, country, or hip hop?
Rock.
Star Wars, Star Trek, or stargazing?
Stargazing.
All right, so far you've got 4 out of 5 right. I'm just kidding. Okay, Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini?
ChatGPT.
And last but not least, the future of AI. Society will benefit, or I'd rather not say, the chatbots may be listening.
Society will benefit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kunal.